This is the true story of a family that walked into the wilderness and never came back. In the quiet town of Eufaula, Oklahoma, lived the Jamison family, Bobby, his wife Sherilyn, and their bright-eyed 6-year-old daughter, Madison. On the surface, they were just like any other family, but beneath, there were currents of tension. They were dealing with financial stress and marital problems, the kind of everyday struggles that weigh on so many. Bobby and Sherilyn were looking for a fresh start, a new beginning. They had plans to buy a 40-acre plot of land deep in the rugged Sandboys Mountains, a place to build a new life away from their troubles. But something strange was happening in the days leading up to their disappearance. Their home surveillance camera, meant to provide security instead, captured a silent, unsettling ballet. The footage shows Bobby and Sherilyn moving back and forth, packing their truck for their trip. But they move with an unnerving slowness, a rigid detachment. They barely speak to each other, their faces blank, as if in a trance. They walk in and out of the house, their movements robotic and repetitive, sometimes just standing silently for long periods. What were they thinking? What unspoken fear or fixation had taken hold of them? At the time, no one could have known that this strange, silent dance was a prelude to a mystery that would perplex investigators for years to come. Some would later theorize it was the effect of paranoia. Others suggested drugs, while some believed it was a shared psychological break from reality. Whatever the cause, the family was on a path from which they would not return. On October 8, 2009, the Jamisons loaded into their white pickup truck and drove towards the remote, wooded wilderness near Red Oak, Oklahoma. They told family members they were going to look at the land they dreamed of buying. It was supposed to be a short trip, a scouting mission for their future. They took their daughter, Madison, and their small family dog with them. The autumn air was crisp, and the mountains stood silent, waiting. The family drove down a lonely dirt road, deeper and deeper into the forest, leaving civilization far behind. And then they vanished. The hours turned into days. Calls to their cell phones went straight to voicemail. Relatives grew worried, then frantic. A search was organized, but the vast, dense terrain of the Sandboys Mountains offered no easy answers. It was as if the family, their truck, and all their dreams had been swallowed whole by the ancient woods. 8 days after they were last seen, a hunter stumbled upon their abandoned pickup truck, parked on a secluded dirt road. The discovery only deepened the mystery. The truck was locked, and inside, investigators found a scene that made no sense. On the front seat were their wallets, driver's licenses, and cell phones. Tucked away under the driver's seat was a bank bag stuffed with over $32,000 in cash. Their GPS was still there, along with Bobby's glasses. And huddled in the back of the truck, emaciated but alive, was the family's beloved dog, Star. She was severely malnourished, on the brink of death from starvation. But the family was gone. There were no signs of a struggle, no blood, no evidence of violence. The truck was stuck in the mud, but it didn't seem to be a serious obstacle. Their shoes were found inside the vehicle. The most baffling part? There were no footprints leading away from the truck. It was as if they had simply stepped out and dissolved into thin air. The initial theories were as wild and scattered as the search parties. Why would a family in financial trouble abandon $32,000 in cash? Why leave their phones, their only link to the outside world? Why leave their shoes behind to walk into the rugged, rocky terrain? The area was remote, but it wasn't a vast, uncharted wilderness where one could simply get lost and never be found. Investigators were stumped. As they dug deeper into the family's life, more alarming details emerged. Sherilyn's mother revealed that the couple had become intensely paranoid. Bobby had believed their house was haunted by spirits, possibly even by the ghost of a relative who had previously lived there. He'd consulted a pastor, seeking guidance on how to perform an exorcism on their home. He'd even purchased a special book, a sort of satanic Bible, which he read aloud, hoping to banish the entities he felt were tormenting them. Sherilyn herself had spoken about spirits and curses. She told a friend that she and her daughter saw ghosts on their roof and that these spirits spoke to them. Was this a case of shared delusion, or was something more sinister at play? Despite one of the largest search operations in Oklahoma's history, the case went cold. Helicopters with thermal imaging cameras found nothing. Search teams on foot, with cadaver dogs, scoured miles of dense forest, but turned up no bodies, no clothing, no clues. It was a complete dead end. The media attention faded, and the public slowly forgot about the family that had walked into the mountains and disappeared. For years, the forest kept its silence. The unanswered questions hung heavy in the air, a constant nagging reminder of the three people who were simply gone. Where did they go? What happened on that lonely dirt road? The silence was absolute, and for nearly 4 years, the mystery of the Jamison family remained locked away in the heart of the Sandboys Mountains. Then, in November of 2013, the silence was broken. A group of deer hunters, trekking through a remote and rugged part of the mountains, made a grim discovery. There, lying face down in the dirt, side by side, were 3 skeletons. They were found about 3 miles from where the family's truck had been abandoned years earlier. Dental records soon confirmed the unthinkable. It was Bobby, Sherilyn, and little Madison Jamison. They had been found at last. But their discovery only brought more questions. Their shoes were still on their feet. There were no weapons found anywhere near the remains. The location was difficult to access, a place one would not stumble upon by accident. How did they get there? And more importantly, how did they die? The medical examiner's office was tasked with finding the answer, but the elements had taken their toll. The remains were too decomposed to reveal a clear cause of death. There were no bullet holes, no broken bones, no signs of obvious trauma. Exposure to the elements was considered a likely possibility, but even that didn't fully add up. Why would they walk 3 miles into such a remote area with a 6-year-old child without supplies? Why did they appear to lie down together to die? The official ruling was listed as undetermined. The science that was meant to bring closure only added another layer of ambiguity. The family had been found, but the truth of what happened to them seemed further away than ever. The final piece of the puzzle was missing. With no definitive cause of death, the door was left wide open for competing explanations, each more disturbing than the last. The first theory centers on a complete psychological breakdown. Could the family have been suffering from a shared delusion, a folie familiale, where their paranoia and fear of spirits drove them to flee into the woods to their deaths? Perhaps they believed they were being pursued by something supernatural and simply ran until they could run no more. Then there's the drug theory. It was rumored the family might have been involved in the local methamphetamine trade. An autopsy did find traces of meth in the adult systems, but not enough to confirm an overdose. Could they have been running from a drug deal gone bad, or were they experiencing severe meth-induced paranoia? Another theory is simple environmental exposure. Perhaps their truck got stuck, and they decided to walk for help, getting hopelessly lost and eventually succumbing to the cold. But this doesn't explain why they left their money, their phones, and most puzzlingly, their dog. If you were walking for help, why leave behind the one creature that could have potentially protected you or helped you find your way? Finally, there's the paranormal belief. Given the family's documented fear of spirits and curses, some believe they encountered something truly otherworldly in those woods, a force that drove them from their truck and led them to their deaths. The case remains a haunting tapestry of unanswered questions. What could possibly make a family abandon their vehicle, leaving behind over $30,000 in cash? Why did they leave their cell phones, their only lifeline to the outside world? Why was their dog, a beloved family pet, left to starve in the back of the truck? And what truly happened to Bobby, Sherilyn, and Madison Jamison in those dark, lonely woods. To this day, the Sandboys Mountains remain quiet. No new evidence has emerged to shed light on those final, desperate hours. The Jamison family deaths remain one of America's most disturbing and perplexing modern mysteries. Some families vanish without a trace, but the Jamisons left just enough behind to haunt us forever.